Hey guys! So I finally got my hair cut yesterday. I am kind of cheap, so I only usually get it cut like every 4 or 5 weeks, which is way too long because my hair grows really fast. But finally got it cut and it looks awesome. Just love the fade when I first get it done. It's so cool. Anyway, so yesterday I finally told all my friends and family that I'm doing the vlogging thing and linked to my channel and told everybody that I'm going to be having top surgery. And it was kind of terrifying, but I'm really glad that I did it. I was kind of afraid of what people would say or something. I don't know. I guess just kind of what I said in my other videos, my general anxieties about talking about all this kind of stuff and everything. But I had a really positive response and people are being really supportive and I'm really excited about that. So thank you to everybody for supporting me and being interested in what I have to say. So after I posted the link, several of my friends watched the videos and I got a message from one of my friends asking if I could do some sort of basic definitions of some of the things that I'm talking about, which I probably should have thought to do, but I don't know, I've kind of been like swimming in this sea of gender and sexuality talk and stuff for several years, like even before I realized myself that I'm non-binary and everything. It's just been something that I've kind of followed as an interest and like as an ally myself and everything. So I kind of forget that not everybody knows what all these things mean. So I made a little list and hopefully I'm going to cover this is like super basic, just a few things, but if there's anything that I don't cover that people want to know about or things that I do talk about but maybe I don't do a good job explaining or you have other questions about it or something, let me know in the comments, and you can also message me or whatever if you don't feel comfortable posting about it publicly, but I'll try to cover them in a future video. So one thing that I know a lot of people don't know what it means is the word cis, and what it is actually an abbreviation for cisgender, and it's spelled C-I-S-G-E-N-D-E-R, and basically all cisgender means is not trans. So it's a scientific term. Gosh, I should really know this. I think it's Latin, but don't quote me on that. But, you know, trans as a prefix usually means like across. So like transcontinental means you cross to a different continent, you know, that kind of thing. So in science, and I believe this is like biology and chemistry kind of thing, cis is the opposite of that. So it means on the same side. So it just kind of got adopted as like a sociological term, I guess you could call it, as a counter to trans, because without a word like that, you know, sometimes people are like, why do you need cisgender? Why don't you just say normal? I think it should hopefully be a little bit obvious when you think about it why trans people wouldn't want the category they don't fall into to be called normal and for them to be not normal. You know, normal is kind of a loaded term, so so I think it's really helpful to everybody really to have a word that just means, you know, here's one thing and here's the other thing. It doesn't have to be like, here's this normal stuff and then here's like this weird stuff over here. So hopefully that'll clear things up a little bit. And I probably should like backtrack just slightly because I didn't define trans or transgender. And again, trans is just an abbreviation for transgender. Transgender is an umbrella term that basically just means somebody who identifies as a different gender than the one they were assigned at birth. So sort of the traditional narrative of transgender people that most people know of is a very simplistic one that really isn't very inclusive. And that is the idea of being, say, assigned female at birth and then transitioning to male, or being assigned male and transitioning to female. And while that is a reality for a lot of trans people, that's not every trans person. So to understand that, you kind of have to know the idea of the gender binary, which is something that we aren't really taught about explicitly in society for the most part, but it's very pervasive as an implicit thing that everybody is taught from a very, very young age, like really kind of before you're born. I mean, it's kind of a big part of most people's birth, like surrounding their birth, is the gender that they're assigned. I mean, people have like gender reveals and, you know, showers with like pink and blue and stuff like that. So it starts very early, and because of that, it's a very hard idea to kind of get yourself out of, because it's this idea that kind of pervades through a lot of society, throughout most people's lives. I mean, it's kind of hard to ignore. But it's really not a good representation of reality, because gender is not a binary thing. It's not this or that. It's a spectrum. And this is something that I'm probably going to get into a little bit more when I talk about my own experience, or like my own, what being non-binary feels like for me, or what it is for me. But the basic idea for this video is just that the gender binary is oversimplified and non-inclusive, and people that don't feel like they fit into the category of boy or girl or man or woman may or may not identify as non-binary. And basically, you know, exactly like it sounds, it just means outside the gender binary. And it is also an umbrella term. So non-binary is kind of a vague term that can mean a lot of different things. For some people, it means that they don't identify as any gender. They feel like they don't have a gender, or they're genderless. For some people, it means that they feel like they have more than one gender, that they either simultaneously or flow between more than one gender. So some people are bigender, for example, and they might identify as both a man and a woman, or a man and agender, or something like that. And this is getting a little bit more complicated than I want to get in this very basic intro, but the point is that non-binary is, like I said, an umbrella term that can mean a lot of different things for different people. I haven't personally come up with a good, more specific term that I feel like fits me. I sometimes use gender fluid because I do feel like that my gender is not like a static thing exactly, but I don't know that, I mean, that's also a little bit vague because it can mean so many different things. So I'm still kind of trying to work on the word that I feel like fits me. Not that I need one exactly, but just to, I guess, be more helpful in how I express myself or how I explain my experience. So when I say I'm non-binary, I basically mean that I don't identify as either a man or a woman. I also talked about transition, and transition, there are different kinds of transition. There's social transition, medical transition, legal transition, like different aspects of transition, I guess. So there's kind of this idea in society that transition is like a progressive thing that every trans person is intending to get from point A to point B, and point B is like considered full transition, which is true for some people, but definitely not all. And I think it's really helpful to kind of break down the different kinds of transition, which I'm probably, sorry, I always say I'm going to be talking about this later, but I am going to be making a video about my own transition goals, and in that I'm going to talk about not just medical stuff, but like social and, I don't know, other aspects of transition. But medical transition is definitely a part of transition for a lot of people. Again, not all. There are squirrels crawling on my window. Sorry if you can hear that. They do this all day long. There's a bird feeder here, so they just love crawling all over the window. But medical transition is not necessary to be a trans person. It's not, your identity is valid as a trans person, regardless of whether or not you have had any kind of surgery, whether you're on hormones or anything like that. It's not like Pinocchio where you become a real boy or a real girl or whatever like that. It's gender identity is so much more than your physical attributes or your medical status. And just to further confuse things a little bit, but hopefully simultaneously clarify them, non-binary is an umbrella term that fits under the transgender umbrella. Because, like I said, transgender just means you identify as a gender other than the one you were assigned at birth. So non-binary is not something that people are assigned at birth. So therefore, people who were assigned male at birth and then later identify as non-binary could be considered trans. But not all non-binary people want to claim the identity of transgender for various reasons. You know, sometimes they feel like it's not something that they just relate to. Sometimes it feels like they don't feel like they qualify, or I don't know, there are different reasons that people may or may not identify as transgender. So the way you can, I guess, kind of think about it is like a Venn diagram where non-binary would maybe have like an overlap with transgender as part of the transgender umbrella, but you don't have to be transgender to be non-binary. I don't know if that clarifies things or not. I'm trying to explain this because there are people who are non-binary who don't identify as trans, and there are those who do. And so I know that could maybe be confusing if you are if you're watching other videos or if you're reading things about different people's experiences and you don't understand whether a non-binary person would be considered trans or not. It really just depends on the person. For me personally, I do identify as transgender. So there are various aspects of medical transition. You know, there could be hormones or different kinds of procedures. And obviously surgery is the one that probably the majority of people first think of when they think of a trans person medically transitioning. Like surgery is kind of the old standard, I guess, idea of what transitioning is. And anybody can decide to have as few or as many of these types of surgeries as they feel are necessary for them. There's not like a checklist where, again, you're like everybody is moving toward the same goal. It really is a very personal thing because, you know, obviously each person's body is different and is their own, and everybody has a different relationship with their body. And I think it's important to respect that people kind of know what's right for them. And honestly, I am definitely not an expert on all these different kinds of surgeries. I haven't looked into most of them. I mean, a lot of them don't apply to me because they involve body parts that I don't have. But just very generally, surgery is kind of divided into two really broad categories. The first being top surgery, which is what I talked about in my last video, which for me as a person assigned female at birth is bilateral mastectomy. That's what I'm going to be having. And bottom surgery is basically anything below that. So it could be either external or internal. For example, hysterectomy is something that some people assigned female at birth pursue as a type of bottom surgery. So I think that's the main kind of points that I've hit on so far in my other videos that I just wanted to address a little bit as far as gender is concerned. I tried to keep that pretty basic, and hopefully I wasn't overly confusing or introducing too many brand new concepts. But if I did confuse you, or if you have further questions about any of this, or if you have other things that you would like me to explain in a future video, then just let me know. You can, again, either comment below or message me or contact me in other social media or wherever you want to track me down, and I will try to get to those as soon as I can. So I will see you guys next time.